When someone says no to your idea, your dream, your ambition, it often feels like the end. It feels final. You hear it and your heart sinks, your momentum slows, and that little voice inside begins to whisper, maybe they're right, but let's look deeper. Let's peel back the layers, because no is not the enemy. No is not a wall, it's a mirror. It reflects to you your own belief system. It challenges whether you'll crumble under pressure or rise with purpose. When India was repeatedly told no, no, you can't lead in technology, no, you can't rise economically without Western guidance, no, you can't build space programs while still battling poverty, the country didn't take it as a conclusion. It took it as a challenge. A nation that had been written off by the world began to understand something powerful. When others underestimate you, you have the freedom to work in silence, in shadows, in strength. You are underestimated until you are undeniable, and it's the same with you. Every time you've been told no, whether it was a job you didn't get, a relationship that broke down, an opportunity that slipped through your fingers, what if that no was simply a divine redirection? What if it was life pulling you away from the wrong room so you could build your own house? Most people fear rejection. But if you look at anyone who's truly transformed their life, they didn't run from rejection. They leaned into it. They got told no. So many times they stopped caring. And when you stop fearing no, you become dangerous not to others, but to limitation, to doubt, to fear. The U.S. didn't expect India to rise so fast because they assumed no would mean stop. But India didn't stop. It recalibrated, it rerouted, and that's what winners do. They hear no, and instead of shrinking, they start asking different questions. They stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? How can I use this? Rejection isn't a brick wall, it's a compass, and you know why so many people are stuck in lives they don't love. It's not because they didn't get a break, it's because when life said no, they believed it. They took it personally. They decided that someone else's opinion was more powerful than their own conviction. That's the real danger, not the rejection, the reaction. Imagine this. You're on a journey, and your GPS suddenly says, rerouting. You don't throw the device away. You don't stop the car. You just follow the new direction. And yet, in life, the moment things go off course, we start doubting everything. But what if your soul, like India's spirit, is built to reroute? Built to evolve through resistance? Think about how much power is hiding in a single no. It can turn the dreamer into a doer. It can turn the ignored into the iconic. No will either bury you or build you, and the choice is always yours. You have to look at every no as a teacher in disguise. It teaches you what doesn't work, what you need to refine, how to separate true passion from momentary excitement. That's what separates the ones who endure from the ones who merely dream. India didn't take the world's no as a scar. It took it as strategy. It said, watch us. And slowly, it began rewriting its destiny, not with revenge, but with results. You have the same power. The moment someone doubts you, that's your invitation to grow 10 times deeper, 10 times louder in your commitment. Let their no be your fuel. Let it remind you that your validation must always come from within. The real truth is this: every no is proof that you're aiming high. No one says no to someone who doesn't try. If you've been rejected, turned down, overlooked, that means you're in the arena. You're in motion. And people in motion scare those who settle. That's why no comes so quickly to the brave. But guess what? The brave also know how to keep moving forward. In every great story, the hero is told no. No, you're not ready. No, you're not smart enough. No, you're not strong enough. And then comes the plot twist. They go ahead anyway. That's what changes the story. That's what shocks the world. And if a country like India can be told no for decades and still rise into global prominence, then what excuse do you have? None, because you are not the rejection you received. You are the reaction you choose next. You are the fire that keeps burning after the world says you can't. The only question is, will you rise or will you retreat? Because the no will come, but so will the growth if you're willing to answer it with power instead of pain. The most dangerous place you can live is inside the prison of your own mind. Not a physical prison, a mental one, built by years of doubt, rejection, fear, and other people's opinions. When someone tells you no, when a system tells you you're not good enough, when your environment is filled with limitations, it plants seeds in your subconscious. Over time, if you're not careful, those seeds grow into deeply rooted beliefs. Beliefs that whisper things like, "You'll never make it. That dream is too big for someone like you. People like us don't win." And once that internal story becomes strong enough, your destiny starts shrinking to fit it. What separates the people who break free from those who stay stuck is not talent, not money, not luck, it's their paradigm. Your paradigm is your internal operating system. It's the lens through which you see the world and yourself. It's invisible, but it's powerful. It decides whether you react or respond, whether you shrink or stretch, whether you settle or soar. The world expected India to stay in a certain mental frame, a paradigm of dependence, of following rather than leading, of waiting for permission. But something changed. India began to shift its paradigm from being seen as a follower to declaring itself a leader, from being a recipient of innovation to becoming a creator of technology. That didn't happen because someone gave the green light. It happened because someone inside the system dared to question the system, and it has to happen the same way in your life. If you want real transformation, you must first shift the story you're telling yourself. Because here's the truth: the world responds to how you see yourself. If you see yourself as a victim, you'll attract situations that confirm that belief. If you see yourself as powerful, the world starts moving in ways you never imagined. But that power doesn't show up until you decide to take ownership. Total ownership, not partial, not conditional, total. The moment you shift from thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this trying to teach me?" that's the beginning of real freedom. That's the moment you go from being stuck in reaction to living in creation. That's when you stop allowing circumstances to control your life, and you begin to create your life with intention, vision, and energy. Most people think success starts with action. It doesn't. It starts with awareness. Awareness of the programs running in your subconscious. The beliefs you adopted when you were too young to question them. Maybe someone told you, "Be realistic. You're not smart enough. People like us don't do things like that." And you believed them, not because they were right, but because repetition became reality. But you can break that cycle. You can rewire the pattern. The same way a country rewrites its narrative after decades of being underestimated, you can rewrite yours. And it begins with one decision, the decision to stop seeing yourself as a product of your past, and start seeing yourself as the designer of your future. Look around at the people who have transformed their lives. You'll notice they all made one major shift. They stopped blaming. They stopped pointing fingers at their boss, their parents, the economy, their government, their past. They turned inward and said, "If it's going to change, it has to start with me." That's the shift. That's the paradigm shift. And until you make it, you'll stay locked in a cycle of excuses, even if you dress them up as reasons. You were not born to fit into a system. You were born to reimagine it. You weren't made to follow, you were made to create. But creation doesn't happen in a victim state. It happens in a visionary state. Visionaries don't need external validation. They don't ask permission. They see what's possible before it exists. That's what India began to do. It didn't ask for recognition. It built its way into relevance. It didn't cry over lack of access. It created its own access. It shifted from dependency to decision, from apology to authority, and you can do the same. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You need to believe in yourself deeply enough that nothing else matters. That belief begins with awareness. Awareness that you've been conditioned but not condemned, that you've absorbed limits but they're not locked in, that your environment may have shaped your past, but it doesn't have to shape your next chapter. To shift your paradigm, you must begin feeding your mind with new ideas that expand, not shrink. Read things that inspire, listen to voices that challenge your thinking. Surround yourself with people who reflect your future, not your history. Watch what you consume. Every word, every conversation, every image is either building your new mind or reinforcing the old one. You were not meant to stay in survival mode. You were born for expansion, for creation, for contribution. But survival mode is addictive. It feels familiar. Breaking out of it requires courage. It requires you to look your fears in the face and say, I will not let this define me. Because you are not your fear. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are possibility. You are potential. And once your mind believes that, your world begins to bend in your favor. Negative emotions are not the enemy. In fact, they are some of the most powerful tools you've been given if you understand how to use them. The problem is, most people run from them. They try to suppress their anger, numb their sadness, hide their fear, bury their insecurity. But just because you bury something doesn't mean it dies. It just grows in the dark, silently shaping your actions, decisions, and destiny. What most people don't realize is that negative emotions carry energy. And energy is neutral. It only becomes destructive or constructive based on how you channel it. India, for years, absorbed criticism, disrespect, and underestimation. The West questioned its ability, dismissed its ambitions, doubted its capacity to lead. But instead of collapsing under those emotions, India converted them into focus, hunger, and innovation. It turned frustration into fuel, and that fuel became action. That's what you have to learn, how to convert your inner chaos into clarity. Because emotions, even the dark ones, are signals, and behind every strong emotion is a powerful message about what you care about, what you fear, what you dream, and what you believe is possible. Anger, for example, isn't just rage. It's usually a sign that something you deeply value has been threatened or violated. But instead of expressing it, most people explode or implode. One destroys others, the other destroys self. But there's a third option: transmute it. Take the heat of that emotion and channel it into disciplined, focused movement. Some of the world's most powerful businesses, inventions, and breakthroughs were born from people who were tired of being told what they couldn't do. They were tired of being overlooked, rejected, underestimated. But instead of complaining, they built. Jealousy is another one. People avoid it like it's a poison, but jealousy, when viewed correctly, is just desire with comparison. You see something in someone else and it reminds you of something you haven't tapped into yet. Instead of letting it turn toxic and make you bitter, let it make you bolder. Let it show you what's possible. Use it to reveal what you really want. And instead of resenting someone else's success, let it be evidence that your dream is real and achievable. Sadness, too, has its place. When you feel like you've lost something or someone important, it opens up your soul. It makes you reflective, and in those quiet, reflective spaces, you start seeing what really matters. You get honest with yourself. You start thinking about legacy, impact, and the shortness of life. That sadness, when used properly, becomes the foundation of compassion, gratitude, and courage. Fear, that's the big one. Fear paralyzes most people, but fear is nothing but a question. Are you ready for this? Are you prepared to stretch beyond what you've known? Fear often points to the exact thing you need to do to grow. If something scares you and excites you at the same time, it's probably exactly where you need to go. But instead of running toward it, most people run back into their comfort zones. And then they wonder why life feels small. You see, the key is to stop labeling emotions as good or bad. They're not. They're just data. They're just signals. And once you learn how to read the signal, you stop being afraid of your own inner world. Most people are living at war with themselves, denying how they feel, judging themselves for feeling it, pretending to be okay when they're not. But you can't heal what you won't acknowledge, and you can't transform what you won't touch. India didn't pretend there wasn't pain. It didn't fake strength. It acknowledged where it was, and then it started building slowly, steadily, deliberately. That's what you need to do. When you feel something powerful inside you, don't run. Sit with it, understand it, ask what it's here to teach you, use it, channel it, let it move you forward. Let it be the fire under your discipline, the force behind your creativity, the voice in your silence. When you start using your emotions instead of being used by them, you become unstoppable. You stop reacting to life, and you start responding with wisdom. You stop fearing failure because you understand that failure is often the result of unprocessed emotion, not lack of potential. And when you free yourself emotionally, everything else becomes lighter: your actions, your thoughts, your relationships, your dreams. The most successful people are not emotionally numb. They're emotionally intelligent. They feel everything deeply, but they don't let those feelings control them. They harness them. They direct them. That's emotional alchemy, turning pain into progress, anger into action, doubt into direction. It's what turns average into exceptional. It's what turns pressure into power. You have to stop waiting for only positive emotions to take action. Waiting to feel confident before you start is a trap. Waiting to feel ready is a delay. Most of your progress will be born in discomfort, and that discomfort will often be emotional. But if you learn to move with it, not against it, you'll unlock a deeper level of power most people never touch. You'll stop running from the parts of yourself you were taught to hide, and you'll start realizing that the very emotions you thought were weaknesses are the exact forces designed to build your strength. There's a lie that has been passed around for generations, a lie that says where you come from limits where you can go, that geography defines destiny, that if you're born in the wrong place, to the wrong people, in the wrong system, your life will be a constant compromise. But history, real history, doesn't support that lie. The truth is, the most powerful transformations in the world have happened when someone dared to challenge the idea that their background determined their future. When someone refused to let the lines on a map decide the boundaries of their dreams. For a long time, the world looked at India as a country of chaos, poverty, noise, and inefficiency. The West, especially the United States, couldn't see beyond the stereotypes. They assumed India would always be the back office, never the boardroom, always the follower, never the leader. But behind the scenes, in silence, without asking for permission or approval, something was happening. Minds were growing, systems were evolving, innovation was brewing. India wasn't begging for attention. It was building credibility. And then, almost suddenly, the world looked again and saw something they didn't expect. A country that had once been dismissed was now setting standards in technology, medicine, and global diplomacy, and the U.S. didn't see it coming. That is what happens when people stop believing they are limited by where they are born. That is what happens when a country stops playing by the rules it was handed and starts writing new ones, and you in your own life can do the same. You may not control your birthplace, your upbringing, or the conditions you were raised in, but you absolutely control what you do with them. Destiny is not about environment, it's about energy. It's about what you believe, what you choose, and how you show up every single day in spite of what the world thinks. You don't need to be in a powerful place to become powerful. You don't need to be born into privilege to create a legacy. What you need is vision so strong that it pierces through your current circumstances and locks onto a reality that hasn't been built yet. Vision is borderless. It doesn't need a visa. It doesn't ask for access. It creates its own path. India didn't rise because it was invited. It rose because it believed. And when you believe deeply enough, consistently enough, your belief starts to bend reality in your favor. People often say, if only I lived in a different country, if only I was born into a different family, if only my environment was more supportive. But those thoughts are traps. They look like logic, but they're actually excuses dressed as reason. Because there are people born into ideal circumstances who never do anything with their lives, and there are others born into difficulty who break every pattern and rise beyond comprehension. It's not about where you are, it's about who you decide to become. India didn't need to relocate to become great. It didn't need to mimic the West. It needed to trust its own potential. It needed to tap into its own genius, its own ancient wisdom, and blend it with modern ambition. And you need to do the same. You don't have to escape your background, you have to elevate it. You don't have to forget where you came from, you have to use it. Your story, your scars, your setbacks, they're not curses. They're credentials. They're what qualify you to speak, to lead, to build, to inspire. The U.S. underestimated India because it was using the wrong metrics. It was looking at GDP, infrastructure, and global status. But it wasn't looking at hunger, at drive, at determination. Those things aren't always visible, but they are always felt. And when you have enough internal drive, you don't need external validation. You become self-sufficient in your energy. You become unstoppable in your growth. And when people finally notice, you're already 10 steps ahead. Geography only limits those who believe it does. It has no power unless you hand it power. And the moment you reclaim that power, your environment stops being a cage and becomes a canvas. You stop seeing your circumstances as permanent, and you start seeing them as raw materials. Everything around you, no matter how broken, no matter how small, becomes usable. You don't need the perfect conditions to start. You need courage, you need clarity, and you need commitment to outwork and outlast every expectation placed on you. There's a reason so many breakthroughs come from unexpected places, because people in those places aren't distracted by comfort. They're focused, they're obsessed. They don't have the luxury of laziness, and that pressure creates diamonds. That tension produces transformation. When you're no longer trying to prove your worth to the world, but are driven by an internal mission, your geography becomes irrelevant. It's not where you are that shapes you, it's what you believe while you're there. It's what you're building in silence while the world sleeps on you. It's how deeply you're willing to go, not how far you can travel. It's the intensity of your vision, not the visibility of your location. There is a secret that only a few truly understand, the ones who rise, the ones who shock the world, the ones who are remembered. That secret is this: rejection doesn't break you, it builds you. It doesn't weaken your destiny, it forges it. When life tells you no, when the world turns its back, when people walk away, you are being handed a rare and sacred opportunity, the opportunity to become resilient. And resilience is not something you're born with, it's something you earn. You earn it by walking through fire and refusing to be burned. You earn it by facing no after no and still showing up. You earn it by continuing when everyone else has stopped. Rejection is one of the most misunderstood experiences in the world. Most people think of it as personal, a statement about their worth, their potential, their place in the world, but it's not personal. Rejection is data, it's information, it's life saying you're getting close but not yet. It's not the end of the road, it's the start of refinement. India was rejected on the global stage for decades, dismissed as a poor country, incapable of innovation, irrelevant in shaping the future. But what the world didn't see was the resilience growing under the surface. Every insult, every doubt, every limitation thrown its way was absorbed and transformed into focus, fire, and forward motion. And this same truth applies to your life. When you get rejected from an opportunity, from a person, from a path you believed in, it feels like a blow, but it's also a gift, because in that moment you learn what you're really made of. It's easy to keep going when things are working. It's easy to believe in yourself when you're being celebrated. But who are you when nothing's going right? Who are you when the world says, no, you're not good enough? That's the moment where resilience is born. That's the moment that separates those who stay small from those who go all in. Rejection is a refining force. It burns away the weak parts of your vision. It cuts out the fluff. It forces you to look again, not at the world, but at yourself. Not with self-pity, but with self-inquiry. Why did this matter so much to me? What can I learn from this? How can I become the version of me who no longer fears this? These questions are the beginning of growth, but most people never ask them. They retreat, they settle, they say, maybe this isn't for me, and they quit 2 inches from the gold. The truth is, every rejection is a disguised redirection. It's the universe testing your resolve, testing your identity, seeing if you'll abandon your vision the moment it's challenged. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think success is about being accepted. It's not. Success is about being resilient enough to keep moving forward without acceptance, to validate yourself, to show up even when the doors are closed and the lights are off, to build your table when no one is offering you a seat. India didn't rise because it was given power. It rose because it refused to stay powerless. It rose because it had a vision bigger than the limits imposed on it. And that's the key. Your vision has to be bigger than your pain, bigger than your past, bigger than your rejections, because if it's not, you'll shrink the moment life gets hard. You'll water down your ambition to avoid the sting of failure. You'll lower your standards just to fit in. But the ones who rise, the ones the world didn't expect, they do the opposite. They let rejection strengthen them. They let it carve them into something sharper, something wiser, something unstoppable. Resilience doesn't mean you don't feel the pain. It means you don't let it stop you. It means you take the punch, catch your breath, and keep swinging. It means you use every no as a stepping stone to the yes that truly matters. And the irony is, once you've been rejected enough times, it stops scaring you. You become immune to it. You don't chase approval anymore, you chase purpose. You don't worry about being chosen, you choose yourself. That's when the shift happens. That's when you go from waiting for opportunities to creating them. From hoping someone sees your value to embodying it so powerfully that they can't ignore you. And eventually, the very people who rejected you will wonder how they missed it. They'll look again and realize they weren't saying no to your potential, they were saying no to a version of you that hadn't fully awakened yet, because rejection isn't a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of timing, of alignment, of readiness. And if you're willing to endure it, to face it, to outlast it, you'll find yourself on the other side not broken, but reborn, not bitter, but better. Not afraid, but fearless. You won't just overcome rejection, you'll use it. You'll shape it into your advantage. You'll realize it was never about the door that closed. It was always about the foundation you were meant to build instead. And the world, like the U.S. with India, won't expect what you've become, but they'll be forced to respect it.